The supervillains of Marvel Comics' core Amazing Spider Man franchise are currently duking it out over territorial control for New York City and the Amazing Spider Man's Gang War storyline. On one side, we have the character of Madame Masque, armed with a mysterious magical power, and the character known as Shotgun. Over on the other side of the fence, we have Janice Lincoln stepping up to the fray, seemingly following in her father's footsteps, now going by the character as the Beetle. Plus, Peter Parker, Spider Man himself, even has a role to play establishing his own team to fight back against New York City supercriminals. My name is Araco Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and explore the pages of The Amazing Spider Man issue 43. But before we get deeper into the video, want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button over on this video. The final fight of Gang War starts here. The biggest and most brutal battle in Spider-Man history starts now, so batten your hatches. If you thought you knew what Madame Masque or Hobgoblin or Beetle or Diamondback was capable of, think again. So The Amazing Spider-Man issue 43 is written over from Zeb Wells, featuring artwork from John Romita Jr. We have inks from Scott Hanna, colors from Marcio Menyz, and letters coming in from VC's Joe Caramagna. In addition, the cover for the issue is also coming in from John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Marcio Menyz. Really love the fact that this cover spotlights so many different heroes and villains who have played a part in Marvel's massive Gang War storyline. I also feel like this is some of the best covers that we've really seen from John Romita Jr. in a really long time over for this series. The amount of figures and the level of animosity he's able to contribute towards each individual player, it really teases out what makes Gang War so fascinating here in the first place. And I want to extend a big thank you to Adventures in Poor Taste and spotlight this really epic opening page of the series coming in over from John Romita Jr. Really appreciated how John Romita Jr. was able to catch Peter Parker back up with the Robertson characters who have experienced so much tragedy as a part of Marvel's epic Gang War storyline. One really important core aspect of the Amazing Spider-Man series that a lot of people have been commenting on is that Peter Parker doesn't always have the most agency within his individual stories. Thankfully, though, I think The Amazing Spider-Man 43 really uses this opening sequence with the Robertson characters to motivate Peter Parker in nearly each and every scene here following. This opening sequence featured some of my favorite pages from John Romita Jr. that we've seen in quite some time. I think this one is paced so incredibly carefully over with Zeb Wells as we finally get to see the motivation behind Peter Parker going to war with some of these Spider-Man-based characters immediately after encountering the Robertsons. Also, the way that John Romita Jr. and Zeb Wells are able to communicate the fact that this really tense storyline is still going on in the background within the second panel here on this page is just really, really beautiful. I also thought the sense of perspective that John Romita caught in the first panel is quite striking as well, even though some of the architecture on the designs of the buildings here is a little bit puzzling to me as a reader. I don't think The Amazing Spider-Man wastes any time getting to the massive battle over in Central Park between Madame Masque and the Beetle here. Both of these characters have some really fantastic dialogue, and due to the fact that we've spent so much time with both Madame Masque and Janice Lincoln as the Beetle, really makes me invested in both of these two individual characters. I really like the exploration that Zeb Wells mounted across this issue into exploring the mysterious magical power with Madame Masque. Also, getting to see some of the lines that Masque traded over with Lincoln a little bit early on within the scope of the narrative was also really enticing here. We've really seen Janice Lincoln go from regular civilian to crime lord, so watching her exchanges with Madame Masque really holds some extra characterization for longtime readers of the core Spider-Man comic book series. Another plot thread that was set up such a long time ago and was really begging for a realization in a future issue was some of the animosity between Tombstone and Shotgun here. I really think that John Romita Jr. was able to illustrate the visceral nature between the fight of these two individuals and really capture some additional characterization. Also, I really found that the final couple pages were drawn incredibly well from John Romita Jr. and captured so much tension within the scope of this narrative. I feel like one of the most important pieces within Marvel Comics Gang War is the fact that there's two generations of Tombstone characters, with Tombstone himself as well as Janice Lincoln serving in the background of the series. And this multi-generational aspect has so many consequences baked within this narrative here. The fact that Zeb Wells was even able to introduce the character of Shotgun into this plot idea was so incredibly fascinating, and I really just have to hand it to Wells for always managing the plot one step ahead of the reader here. The way that John Romita Jr. was able to render the action and characterization on the final page also perfectly gets across that sense of bravado that Zeb Wells is really trying to sew into the script of this issue as well. So at the end of the day, I think The Amazing Spider-Man 43 really featured a phenomenally epic fight over between Madame Masque and Janice Lincoln as the Beetle. This series has done a phenomenal job really carefully balancing the supporting characters from issue to really make you care about the gang war when it officially broke out here. I want to know from you, are you invested in this battle between Madame Masque and the Beetle? Let me know in the comments below. Also, what were some of your thoughts on the surprise ending between the two generations of Lincoln characters getting in a surprising scenario? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for coming to check out our video review over on Amazing Spider-Man 43, and we'll be back to see how the gang war finally winds down and where this comic book is headed in the lead up to issue 50. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.